started with the Africans dying in the cane fields. But cocoa was a much bigger product. The Commission on Emigration from India in 1910 reported the Negro is an efficient laborer, especially when he receives good wages. He is disinclined to continuous labor extending over a long period of time, and he is often unwilling to work if the wages offered are low. Though there may be no prospect of his getting higher wages from any employer, he is fond of display, open-handed, careless as to the future. Lord have mercy. If you don't laugh, you will most certainly cry. Ordinarily, the Negro, that's us, is good-humored, but excitable and difficult to manage, especially in large numbers when his temper is aroused. The East Indian is not so strong a workman, but he is steadier and more reliable. He is economic in his habits. He's fond of saving money and will turn his hand to anything by which he can improve his position. Lord have mercy on us. I have to continue this when we come back, beloved. Stay tuned.
The views expressed are not necessarily the views of the management of the Street 919 FM.
And you make a song, take my short and you make it long. Keep my feet firmly on the ground. When I'm weak, yeah, you make me strong. So for you know I sing this song. Everybody hands up and sing it with me. We have something special, hey, very special, hey, something special, hey, hey, hey. We have something special, hey, very special, hey, something special, hey, hey. See when I tell you, hold on. See when I tell you, hold on. See when I tell you, hold on. Yeah, very special, no doubt. See when I tell you, hold on. See when I tell you, hold on. Where we going? We up and down, we all around. We going country, we going down. We going east, we going west. You know we friendship, it is the best. We up and down, we all around. We going country, we going down. We going down to the ground, 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 to the ground. We have something special, hey, very special, hey, something special, hey, hey, hey. We have something special, hey, very special, hey, something special, hey, hey. See when I tell you, hold on. See when I tell you, hold on. See when I tell you, hold on. Yeah, yeah, very special, no doubt. See when I tell you, hold on. See when I tell you, hold on. Yeah, hey, hey. When I tell you, I say what I tell you when I tell you, I mean it. When I tell you, what I tell you when I tell you, I mean it. I telling you what I tell you when I tell you, what I tell you. I mean it.
Looking for a safe and relaxed professional massage therapist and nutritionist? Look no further. Nature's Touch with Empress Judy and Associates offers a natural approach to better health. Treat yourself to a professional massage therapy and nutrition advice in a safe and relaxed atmosphere. Rejuvenate your body, mind, and soul at Nature's Touch Therapy. For an appointment, please call or WhatsApp 1-868-398-8282. or visit our Facebook page. Remember, your health is our responsibility at Nature's Touch.
Conscious talk, where we are at and where we are going. We cannot redo injustice, but we can move on and achieve in anticipation if there may be changes to what we have been wronged about. It's Conscious Talk.
Voices on the ghetto. Get ready! Pretty British, Brother J, and Ali Berry presents Caribbean Soca Madness Part 1. Drink your water and mind my business. I go drink water and mind my business. Saturday, April 16th at the Onyx venue, 27A Queensway, Bletchley, Milton Keynes, featuring the big band in the business, Iwer George.
Yes, and this is me, Iwer George, with Boss in the Business, April 16th, Soca Madness Part 1. Yes, I'm going to be in London. I'm coming to shell it.
Skinny Fabulous.
You know what I'm saying, yo, London, April 16th. It's all about the Caribbean Soca Madness Part 1. I will be there.
Be a friend blinking bad. All the friend them stinking mad.
Music by DTTP, Rigo Suave, the Stage God, Selector G, Survival Number 1, and DJ Winks. Tickets available on Eventbrite UK. Early bird tickets, £25 from March 6th. For more info, call Allison at 447588376951. Trini British 447404-050703. And Brother J 447508862718. Saturday, April 16th. Caribbean Soca Madness Part 1. London, it's your turn.
This is real comedy.
Dan, I want to know what I really doing here. What is I doing here? I'm not Shimano.
Major Issues, the tour.
With the Caribbean King of Comedy,
Major Hype.
Do you, Miss Mitzi, Renita Brown, take? Yes, me take him. Me take him a long time.
On Saturday, March 26th.
Showtime, 8 p.m. sharp.
At Napa, Port of Spain. Tickets are $350 for a limited time only.
Get yours now at all Cache outlets.
Anton's Gold Rush, Castro's in Arima,
Larry's, Francis Plaza, Chaguanas.
or online at islandetickets.com. Major Hype is on his way to Trinidad.
Well, I just found and give a little one check.
For a comedy show like you've never experienced.
Backed by Ziggy Rankin and Order.
This is the release you need.
Get your tickets early. All COVID protocols are in place.
For more info, call 779-5755. Brought to you by Cache and Anton's Gold Rush.
Better vision for your physical eyes, and through the eyes of faith, let healing arise in your mind, body, and spirit. At Natural Heal Ministries, we teach kingdom principles for living that brings the blessing of God to your mind, body, and soul.
NHM Professional Associates are located at number 10 Moody Stewart Street, Monterey Post, San Fernando. For more info, contact Dr. Desmond Phillip at NHM on 349-3494.
NHM Professional Associates can be heard live on the street 919 FM every Saturday from 9:05 to 9:55 a.m.
Blessings in the wonderful name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You are invited to listen to the Final Hour broadcast heard every Monday from 12 midnight to 5 a.m. in the morning on the street 919 FM radio. Hear my mom, Pastor Helen Garcia, and myself, Pastor Valentine Garcia Jr., preach the word of God to the elderly, youth, and children. We can be contacted at 629-0113 or 623-8444. The church is located at 26 Prince Street in Port of Spain. We look forward to you joining us. God bless you.
As my life I lay it on the altar, as my life.
From the studio to the stage, every Friday between 3 to 4 p.m. right here on the street 919 FM. Radio you can see. Log on to our Facebook and YouTube so you can see live interviews and performances from some of our very own local superstars. Right here on the street 919 FM.
alongside Iwer George presents Soca Come. Featuring the boss himself, Iwer George. Iwer George. The boss man of Soca.
Yo, this is Iwer George, the big boss in the business, and I'm going to be in Grand Cinnamon on the 14th of April, Canada, forward the 6th. Come in, guys.
It's all going down the 14th of April at the Grand Cinnamon Banquet and Convention Center, Toronto, 3895 McNichol Avenue, Toronto, Ontario. 9 p.m. till. Tickets are just $35. Get them now at ticketgateway.com. Hey, so you link up dynamic crew. It's all about Soca. Featuring Iwer George in concert.
Share the live. The Street 919 FM on Facebook and Instagram. Share the live. Iwer George on Instagram. Share the live. Iowa TV and Street TV on YouTube. Share the live. The Street 919 FM.
Brotherhood is required. Brotherhood is demanded. Brotherhood is obligatory. Black man get up, black man stand up, black man you better listen. So there's a need for brotherhood. Black man get up, black man stand up, black man you better listen. Black man get up, black man stand up, black man you better listen. Brotherhood is demanded. Black man get up, black man stand up, black man you better listen. Brotherhood is required. Brotherhood is demanded. Brotherhood is obligatory. Brotherhood is essential, it is urgent, and it is compulsory. But the time demands brotherhood. Whenever the dominant white society fears for its economic future, racial tensions are always aggravated. The aim of Almighty God is to bring the black man and woman together. The aim of Almighty God is that we, no matter how divided we have been in the past, must experience unity in order to gain the success that we seek and the progress that we desire. There is no way that a divided people can build a future. Brotherhood is required. Brotherhood is demanded.
Welcome back, and welcome to the second hour of the Black Agenda here on the Street 919 FM. I want to just finish up some of these points that I was making from Professor Selwyn Ryan, but I might continue on it next week because I also want to open up the telephone lines, of course. But let me just conclude this aspect of it. So the commission in Trinidad, the West Indies Commission, decided that immigration and indentureship should continue as sugar cultivation remained important to the economy. Oil also began to make a lot of money for Trinidad. And in 1920, the oil industry employed 4,500 people, but wages were extremely low and profits were extremely high. Now, of course, the reason it was this way was because, of course, African people were working in the oil fields, and they had this. Listen, I want you to see this. I want you to see this with your own two eyes today. I want you to connect the dots. Oil was making major money for Trinidad and Tobago. You had World War I, World War II. Trinidad and Tobago's oil was a major contributor. But what it is that I want you to see is this sentiment that black workers must always be paid little. No matter how much work they do, they must be paid little. And then, of course, they started to write all of these racist narratives about the Negro is happy and idle and carefree and all of that. Stink narratives to try to justify their institutionalized racism. And black people, 4,500 oil workers in the earliest days, and the objective was to keep their pay low, not because of the work that they were doing, but because they were African, and Africans were former slaves. And their first complaint when they went to the colonial office, as Professor Selwyn Ryan pointed out in Social and Occupational Stratification in Trinidad and Tobago, their first complaint after slavery, when they organized themselves as a unit, the local white people, and went to the colonial office, and they said, we used to own these Negroes, and they used to work for us for free. But now we have to pay them. And they're asking for high prices as well. We have a problem with that. And that attitude has continued up to this day. We have a very low minimum wage in this country when you consider our wealth. And this desire, how could we get Africans to work and work and work and work and work and not pay them? Gosh, it's sick. And you see that spill over into today's society. Some of the stories that you hear about some of these downtown cloth stores and some of these big companies that make mega millions, we can name them. Employing some of these security companies that are owned by the mega rich, and all of their workers with these minimum, absolute minimum, literally below survival wages. And they're backed up by these politicians. That's the vision that they had for us. Hard work, small money. This goes back to the 1800s. Read Professor Selwyn Ryan's work. Heavy workload, light salary. And when you get a black man thinking like a white man, he adopts that same point of view and vision for his own poor black people. That we must keep them working hard, but poor. According to Professor Ryan, continuing in entrepreneurship, the black experience, he says in 1938, Arthur Lewis told the Moyne Commission The position in the West Indies was much the same as it was during slavery, despite the rise during the 19th century of a non-inconsiderable number of small landowners. He went on to say, economic policy was being determined by a racist oligarchy which met over whiskey and soda to keep the nigger in his place. Brother David, how could you use such language? I'm reading from Professor Selwyn Ryan. Probably the greatest product to come out of the University of the West Indies, who was lauded all of last week for his accomplishments. Let me read what he said again. He's talking about the Moyne Commission, which was the commission of inquiry after the labor uprisings in the Caribbean. He said in 1938, Arthur Lewis told the Moyne Commission the position in the West Indies was the same. Yes, we have a few people owning land, but it's the same as it was during slavery. Then he says, economic policy was being determined by a racist oligarchy which met over whiskey and soda to keep the nigger in his place. That's what they're doing today. Now note that that remark was made exactly 100 years after emancipation. Soon we will be 200 years up from emancipation. And they still trying to keep the nigger in his place. And this, I think I'll go into this tomorrow. I really want to take the phone calls. But Professor Ryan, and there's a chapter entitled Blacks and Banking, from Trinidad Commercial Bank to First Citizens Bank. And on page 193, Professor Ryan writes, it was taken as an article of faith that banking was an industry in which black people can never succeed. But many black businessmen were unable to source capital to start or sustain their business. Many were forced to sell their properties to larger companies and firms at prices which led to their collapse over time. Many were forced to turn to the money lender, whose rates were usurious. Listen, the kind of support that the local elite 1% get to appropriate, take over, take control of, and destroy black business just for the sole purpose of being in total control. And they hire their political friends, their politician friends, to oversee the process for them. Look at what, right, and let me just highlight this part for you here. Professor Selwyn Ryan says, but many blacks also achieved success in the construction industry and suitcase trade. They flew to Panama, Curacao, Miami, and New York, and returned with suitcases full of merchandise, which they sold in boutiques in places like the People's Mall. But, according to Professor Selwyn Ryan, many blacks complained that the Syrians, who had themselves started as suitcase traders, were now seeking to deny them use of the route they had taken to become established. Vendors in the People's Mall claimed that the police often raided the mall looking for drugs. The real agenda, in their view, was the ongoing economic war between Syrians and black entrepreneurs. So the Syrians started the suitcase trade, ended up eventually getting rich with support of the banks and the politicians who facilitated their pathway to economic success. But when the Africans went into the suitcase trade, Their little shops were raided by the police, claiming they're looking for drugs. And the funny thing is, there's the other ones who are involved in the suitcase trade that were really trafficking the drugs. And then you have this office of the mayor of Port-of-Spain, which historically has been used to suppress small-scale black entrepreneurship for the purpose of the protection of elitist Caribbean white mega business ownership. Let's arrest some vendors, run them off the street, seize their goods, put them in the police van, so that the businesses of the 1% can thrive. Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago. I want you all to read this book so bad. They should have read this book at the funeral, because it's heavy and it's rough. So, let me go to the phone lines. All right, 342-0081 and 466-5391. First caller, good morning.
A pleasant morning to you, Dr. Mohammed.
Good morning, sir.
Oh, my brother. Again, heavy stuff. And let me say, before I make my contribution, may the soul of the faithful departed rest in peace, and may the martyrs usher him into paradise. My brother, what you would have read into the microphone this morning from the professor book, Dr. Mohammed, what you would have done in 2022, you would have unmasked the present political system. And I want to put everything in a nutshell for time. And what you were reading there from the professor, dear doctor, my opinion on it, it tells you that the present governance structure is not people-centered, labor-driven, or people-oriented. And I haste to add to that, the great-great-grandchildren of the slave master is running the system in full control. Oh, doctor, permit me to repeat, please. The great-great-grandchildren of the slave master is in full control of the system. And meanwhile, the present governance structure affords that. But hear me now. I go where the air is red. So imagine you get all these African activists, regardless to what is your political affiliation, and you all could come under one umbrella and stop attacking for petty politics. And we meet, just imagine, at the Kwame Tori Center, at Dr. Mohammed Center, and we now pull our thoughts and our resources together. And people understand, you know, everything that Professor Selwyn Ryan would have written then, what the doctor is reading from it, it is relevant as we speak in 2022. And I pray to God that, look, the sycophants and whatever activists didn't use this morning to come to attack, but understand where we sit as a people in 2022 with the great-great-grandchildren of the slave masters, where the politician is being used as political prostitute to come against their own African people. Doctor, God bless you. Heavy stuff. Speak it into the mic. Wake up, African, and listen to Dr. Mohammed. Kabakita Uteno.
Thank you. 342-0081 466-5391. Remember, you can send me WhatsApp messages on 332-0214. Caller. Good morning.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Blessed unto African people. I want to say something short. That is why when you see our leaders, prime ministers speaking here in the Caribbean, in Trinidad and Tobago, they have to pay close attention at talking to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, especially the African ones. And we so fanatic with this PNM thing and this UNC thing that we just pull some kind of blind over our eyes. But we can't even see the evil they're doing onto us. We so love the PNM, we so love the UNC, yeah? But listen to this. A couple of years ago, the Prime Minister said what? That get the rich richer to create work for the poor. Understand the road. What David Muhammad is saying this morning, you know. Our Prime Minister, an African man, said that. So when, you understand, you're coming on the radio and cursing one another. I just listen to this station every evening with Aisha Welch, and these people, these African people, will be going behind each other like they have hatred for themselves, and they love the PNM party, which is also African and East Indian and part-time Chinese, but they hate themselves. Don't they see the evil? The government, it doesn't matter which one come into office, doing onto them, onto the people, onto the African people. Check it out good. Our Prime Minister represent the Westminster system. You understand? You see, that war going on in Russia, in Ukraine with Russia, people don't understand that war yet. They've only seen it, Russia invade Ukraine. You understand? But they didn't know behind that story already going on there. But I want to say good morning and have a blessed day, David Mohammed.
Thank you. But the thing that has stood out for me with the war in Ukraine, and I make this comparison to our society, what has stood out for me is that they are interviewing Ukrainian nationals in foreign countries. Ukrainians in Western Europe and also in the United States of America. And they are pointing out that these people, I'm seeing a phone ringing that is not attached to any system, so I don't know. Wall Street, if you're listening, I suggest try to call 342-0081. Okay. But, right, so you have all of these Ukrainians in other countries who want to fight for their country. They're not soldiers, they're civilians, regular civilians, but they want to go back to the Ukraine to fight for their country. And I am asking myself and us, if we as Trinidadians were in some foreign country and something like this was happening in Trinidad, would we be inclined to come back and fight for our country? Or would it feel as if we come to fight for Trinidad, that we'll be fighting for a few, but not for all of us? Because not all of us are equal beneficiaries of the state. The law favors some at the expense of others. The economy favors some at the expense of others. The educational system favors some at the expense of others. The prison system favors some who commit crimes repeatedly and never set foot in there at the expense of us. So is that what I'm going to be fighting for? That's something the leaders of this society have to think about. Caller, are you there?
Morning, David.
Good morning.
Right. Good morning to your listeners. Now, I take umbrage to the previous caller with respect to thinking at an evening program. I don't want to switch your program, but I just want to make a point in relation to where people are lumping, we fighting together and so on. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a whole notion that African people fight and the this and the that and the other. African people, you made the point about the 18th, the 19th century, where, of course, at that time you were being taken advantage of. You fast-track it to today and made the point that even colonial masters, so to speak, sort of working with, I don't want to misplace what you said, but the conclusion is wages today are similar to that time where African people are being paid little.
Yeah, the disparity is
right.
You're right.
I thought it would have been a national perspective because to the African, this is an issue that is more cosmopolitan than ever. In the public service, you have both races, and if it is salaries being paid, it would be to all races. So
no. We're not talking about salaries from the same source. So salaries from the same source, no doubt, would be more or less the same. All right. I mean that's to be honest, that's more of a gender issue in the world today.
Right. Now, even in the private sector, now I could see a point of, let's say, a grocery owned by an East Indian person or a Chinese person employing an African people would believe that it should be paid little. I could understand and agree with that perspective. I think that I am in support of what you're saying with respect to African people being taken advantage of then. Now I would have a little issue with respect to African people themselves not taking heed of all the information you're given there to grow. And that's what I always call a program I feel uncomfortable with. What do we do differently so that we wouldn't be criticized? Or maybe we have two previous callers where they believe that we are fighting among ourselves. David, I'll give a point. The UNC-controlled governments in the past have gotten mandates that include the different thinking in African people. The whole question of 33.3 and 29.12 are a mandate given from an Indian-led party with African support. And yet, when we come back to Dr. Raul with a minuscule lead, they say we're fighting among ourselves. And that's my problem. African people give every other person's chance, especially in Trinidad, to govern with mandates. And they don't do anything for us. I want to say anything for us. I believe, David, everything for African people to grow here in areas where I think it's needed lies in supporting the parliament. The support in the parliament is an Indian-led opposition. That David don't support anything because they believe that taxes is really on the poor. Don't support any sort of thing where African people are employed for they to get better wages. And I'll give an example. The property tax. People believe that the property tax will affect poor people. David, if I don't own a house, what property tax I'm paying?
All right, now let me make a quick point to you about the property tax. Now, I, as a Muslim, believe strongly in the concept of property tax. Because in Islam, you're supposed to pay tax on your possessions. That is that's the law of Islam, right? The more you own, the more you're supposed to be accountable for it through taxation. Understood. But here's my problem with the property tax. We have two main political parties in this country, both of whom, when they were out of office, condemned it. When they were in office, supported it. And that is my whole issue with the system in general. It cannot be trusted.
I disagree.
You disagree with what?
I disagree with the fact that you lump both parties as not having a view on the property tax.
Wait. You disagree with the truth of our history?
I don't know about the historical aspect of both parties disagreeing with the property tax.
How do you mean?
I think when Mr. Manning stopped the property tax, he wanted a sort of a better law.
Wait, hold on. Both parties at one time disagreed with the property tax. Am I correct or wrong?
I think I don't want to say disagree. I think one party.
How can you disagree with that? That is a plain fact. Okay, so right now the UNC are disagreeing with the property tax, not so?
The UNC disagrees with everything.
Right, okay, all right. But everybody disagrees with everything once they're in opposition and change their mind once they're in office. But anyway, but the UNC disagree with property tax right now, don't they?
No.
They don't?
The UNC always disagree. And what they did...
No, but wait, we're talking about property tax. Aren't they against it now?
Of course.
Right. So UNC against property tax today.
Yes.
Weren't PNM against property tax just before they were elected in 2015?
No, David.
Oh, come
No,
on.
David.
You
No,
have
David.
you have
No,
statements from major leaders in the party condemning the property tax and openly saying we will not bring it back. As a matter of fact, there was one particular forum where one government minister was talking about the property tax, basically saying, you know, we won't be bringing this back. And then another one, senior to him, interrupted him to say, you see this property tax thing? They're doing can't remember the adjective that was used, but in other words, a dirty or a mischievous. They're making mischief by trying to say that we are going to bring back the property tax. We are not bringing back the property tax.
David.
And then it was brought back.
The PNM proposal on property tax have always been to bring it differently. They have never said no.
Gosh, but how could you? No, come on. You are way too intelligent for this.
You know why? Because I noticed that, you know, even when Mr. Manning stopped it and tried to bring it differently, in the parliament it was never supported by the UNC. The UNC have always done.
All right, but you've already made the point that they disagree with everything.
They do.
But my simple point.
Let's think about the revenue authority. And people feel that everything in this country is to hurt poor people. And we don't sit down, and that's why I said the UNCs, they prey on the arrogant. And we would sit here and think about African people, but I'm looking at even, when you look at the gaming industry, David, all our...
Which industry?
The gaming industry, the gambling industry.
Mm-hmm.
The gaming industry, when you go in those places in the night, it's only African sisters working there, you know that? And you know what? If you bring a law for this to pay more taxes, the UNC don't agree. When you think about the revenue authority,
but we've already made that point. That is understood. My simple point is, which you wrongly disagreed with, because it's not my opinion, it's a fact, that when it comes to property tax, as with many other things, we have two major political parties at one time.
I don't
both
agree with you, and I think
agreed, and at another time both disagreed. They both disagreed when they were out of office. They both agreed when they were in office.
I'm going to stand firm that the PNM approach to property tax have always been one.
We're not talking about the approach to it.
The UNC, if you listen, when UNC was in office...
All right, I can't argue this.
In 2010 to 2015, they brought it in the last year of the governance when they know fully well it would have been sort of uncomfortable to really get the law going. And they had it in stages afterwards. David, I am telling you.
All right, fine. I'm not going to argue with you if that's your perception of it.
We're not arguing.
But my perception of it, I respect your perception of it, but my perception of it, as with many other things, they are against when they're in opposition, and they're for when they're in office. But that is my... I just respected your perception of it. Okay, there are very few things that both parties agree on, right?
Like what? Because
I said there are very few things that both parties agree on. But you want me to give you a couple examples of a couple of things that both parties will agree to?
By all means.
All right. Increasing salaries and tax breaks for luxury vehicles. I was shocked when I saw them interview members, sitting MPs from both PNM and UNC. It was like a chorus of unity and harmony in this country, the way that they both agreed that the taxpayers should pay millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars in the tax breaks for their luxury vehicles. So you see, it is possible. It is possible that they can agree.
I agree with you there.
But that's not to be agreed or disagreed with. Those are facts.
Yes, that's a fact. But I'm trying to disagree with respect to the approach in opposition of the both parties, where they're on a different page with our development here. And I'll give an example. When even with the administration of justice bill to reduce the amount of matters in court that would affect African people in the jail, the UNC went to the parliament and approved a law under Section 34, David. At the end of the day, they went with piece of the legislation to allegedly to free two people who are of East Indian descent. And they remain, and those laws were supported in the parliament with a PNM opposition and a Senate that agreed that, you know what, it's not been good. And that's what I'm telling you. Let me give an example. The question of local government reform. Yeah. Local government reform money spent by the PM under Mr. Manning when Mrs. Manning was local government minister. We have to change the law to really improve employment in those circles where African people work.
Right, it was under Mr. Manning that I think, if I remember correctly, I think the salaries or stipends for councillors wasn't it more than doubled under Mr. Manning?
Not Mr. Manning tried to change the structure and said, you know, what is to make it unique with
but the major issue of the day was the salaries. And Mr. Manning did a lot for local government reform.
And he tried to put it in a way with a structure, David, that would involve all the different parties. Like it come like a body, because you travel a lot. You know, in most countries, local government takes the lead in the development of the people, especially in the rural districts. And we don't have that support at all in the parliament with the East Indian-led party, knowing fully well it would develop African people. So when you have Mr. Tabakit and your previous caller talking about we fighting among ourselves, it's the simple thing when they know intrinsically it will help us. And that's why I keep saying we could develop more, but we will not get help from an Indian-led opposition, David, in that parliament. And we are very much different in leadership.
Well, I agree with you. I agree with you there. I agree with you. But I will add to that we will not get our just due, period, for as long as we have any politicians who see it as their first priority to serve the rich and the wealthy.
Well, that is a statement by you. But what I'll tell you that is something
you don't agree. You don't agree with that. You see no problem with
it? David, I can't go down that road at all. The fact, and my thing is what I know is that to help African people will not reach anywhere. Once you have an Indian-led opposition that don't agree with anything policy-driven in that parliament, and there is where everything happens, David. When you go to America, in the Congress, you know they wanted to pass a $1 trillion something dollar, and those white people that would not move because they know it will help African people in those areas. We are always cornered in places where the law is required, David.
All right, well, I agree with you. I agree with you. And as I said, I add to that for as long as politics is controlled by economics and you have a select elite minority few who are in control of politicians, then the poor will always feel the pain. And if you want further reference for that, I would guide you to the great book, because this is not personal over individuals, it is systemic. And I will guide you to the great book, Capitalism and Slavery. And there's a reason, by Dr. Eric Williams, and there's a reason that the book was given that title. Because
I'm not contesting that conversation.
New capitalism is like old slavery in the modern time. So old slavery bought today is capitalism.
David,
so
the
slavery of the past was illegal, but if you bring it today in the 21st century, it won't be called slavery, it would be called capitalism.
Correct. Let me end by saying that...
And that's why the CIA were also spying on Dr. Eric Williams.
Agreed.
Because they saw him as communist, as having communist leanings.
I wouldn't contest those conversations at all. It's for me to really sort of increase my knowledge in those particular areas. But, there's a sort of a commonality, for want of a better word, all over the world where there's some degree of control by hierarchies in government. Yeah. But people survive it. People come out good.
Yeah, but we don't want to just survive, do we?
Yeah, we survive it, David. I mean,
yes, we survive, but I'm saying that survival shouldn't be the ultimate goal.
No, it's
prosperity should be the ultimate goal.
To me, the cohesion that is developed among African people in surviving it, I think creates a better force for resistance. And that's what we need here.
Okay.
We are not together. We are just critical of things. And I think before I go, I don't want anybody under the umbrella of the UNC, Mr. Tabakit, and they talk about African. We are nice people, We tolerate, we have a good tolerance level, but we also have a low tolerance level for nonsense.
We have an extraordinary tolerance level.
That's why Dr. Rowley stands firm with the nonsense being heralded here, where things are not being supported for our development in Trinidad and Tobago. Amidst the fact that you're making the point that, yes, people are there to control a lot of things in Trinidad, and that is something we have to work on. David, good program. arguing with you. I always get a good thing across, but take it easy.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your passionate view, and there's always logic in what you say.
Thanks so very
right.
much. Take care, man.
All right, thank you. I'm getting calls from a phone that is not connected to the system. So can you please call 3420081, okay? 3420081. Let's use that number. Because, all right, okay. Let's try this then. Caller, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Wow, amazing. All right, go ahead then. What number did you call? Sorry.
This number is 771.
1791. Right. Why are people calling this number though? Benway, go ahead. Go ahead.
This is a number that I know
Right.
for
Okay.
a long
Go
time,
ahead.
and I haven't
Go ahead.
as much as the next two. But I ain't getting in on the next two. I'm getting in on this one.
But that's strange because I just plugged this one in. This one wasn't even connected. But
All
I'm
right,
seeing
okay,
people
but-
calling it. I don't know why.
This is President Trinidad and Tobago Villager here.
How are you, sir? It's been a very long time.
I am okay, my brother. I'm Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
I had the topic last week a little bit because the timing of my, I don't know if people can have 5 and I just can't get it because I'm doing my heavy knowledge and thing now. So, but I'm going about 5 this morning, but as I wake up there, I hear it. So, but I want to talk about something here.
Yep.
I reached a point in this historical situation and the culture of ourselves. When I'm looking at a situation like what's going on in Ukraine and Russia,
Yeah.
you make a point there just now, and it was looking at how people so equal in the self in those areas as from coming from Massa. This you could see where they united in themselves.
Yeah. They're willing to fight for their country. They're willing to fight for their country.
Well, right.
Even if they're not soldiers.
Right. But when I look at it good, I'm watching and seeing African people. It hard to, I feel like it's hard to bring me to a position of equality or unity because we so brainwashed. I'm watching the brainwash situation. How we have no culture. We don't know what Africa. We don't know. We so lost. We born into the reculture of our mind. So it definitely to plenty use, especially we in a wine and dine culture, who we're not studying the intelligent aspect of existence. That I don't want to say we doomed to unity, but I feel like hard. It's real hard. Look at, take for instance, what's going on in Russia.
Right.
Look how Putin have the people so drilled into his dictatorship that what's going on in Ukraine, there are no chance they will see what's going on until, some prisoner had to end up sending back a message because Ukraine had them in hostage and they make them send back a message to show them that what Putin doing over it, them don't even know, and their own children going and lost and fighting war and dying over there and all kind of thing. I'm watching the thing like that.
Right.
Talk to me.
Okay, all right. I hear you. I want to thank you for your view as well.
Yeah, all right, but I put it in because, I mean, I ain't calling for a long time and I already
Yes,
had a
right. I appreciate it though.
But I don't, I'm exactly doing that. work on the internet and all kinds of, you know that, right? So,
Yes. Oh. All right, thank you. Thank you so much, dear brother. Caller, good morning.
Very good morning.
Good morning to you. Good morning, good morning. How are you doing?
I am good, give thanks. And to all the listeners, good morning. You know, I am clearly of the opinion. Time is time is time. You see this thing about watch and clock and calendar and yesterday and today and tomorrow? I don't believe in that. Because everything you read from Selwyn Ryan's book there, that great man, applies today.
Same, yep.
The further back you go, the East Indians coming here, their position is still the same. No help for us where we come to the banking sector. The wages are nasty. You go and you selling fabric in these stores, you have to bring in a certain amount and you get nothing in comparison in where your wage is concerned. Case in point, what day was that? Not on this frequency. The man from the Strap Iron had a program there with Harvey Boris. That man moved me to tears already in my house here, you know. The way how that man coming out and begging and pleading to the government just to be fair. The man sending all the papers and all the necessary work. They totally discarded and said they didn't get his email and wickedness doing this man. And he is constantly on the radio pleading and begging. I in my house here and I'm crying when I hear that man pleading his case. Started in the scrap iron business, the first person. But as a black man, no help. And anytime he tried to bring ideas and so on, he's shut down and somebody else is given the preference. Harvey Boris had him on, I just hope. But at one point I was wondering if it was a plug for Faris Alwari because he started to talk about Faris Alwari's father and his grandfather and the business and whatnot and whatnot. But the same thing applies today. Why we can't see that? The East Indians came here as a buffer group and all sorts of nasty propagandas are still said about us today. And everything that you see, we built the whole of the new world. And yet we are labeled as lazy. Anyways, I am just so grateful when you see you come out and say all these things. I hope eyes and ears are waking up. It's time for us to see clearly what has happened. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. Caller, good morning.
Good morning, Brother David.
How you doing?
Fine. You know who's speaking to you?
I'll figure it out.
Gemma.
Ah, DJ Gemma. How you doing, Gemma?
Yeah, hanging in.
Great to hear from you.
You know what? Yes, you know what I just wonder sometimes? If we, as African people, if we really love one another, because it has grieved my heart to see sometimes how, well, look, there's a distance from my house here. Last week, two Africans had this gentleman say, I think something to buy some car. And next thing they kill him right out by the licensing office. So all these things, I just wonder if we of ourselves, if we have love for one another. I just wonder that, you know. Every day I study that. Okay, Brother David? Have a good one.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. And you know, we had quite a few meetings in our office yesterday after Juma. Among them, again, we're getting more and more information. I have to do a television program about it. But there are 72 Trinidadian children in Syria who are trying to get home. 72 innocent children in a place where all of the other children from all the other countries have already been accepted back by their governments. We have 72 children, Trinidadian children, who are living like animals under tents, under observation or terror watch or whatever they want to call it, in Syria, who need to get back home. And we have all these articles, all these clippings, all these documents regarding that, and it is an awful situation, especially on the backdrop of the Ukraine situation. So there was one Trinidadian out there in the Ukraine, and I congratulate the government for working so hard to bring him back or her back. Great work, great job. But what about the 72 innocent Trinidadian children who are out there, who are being ignored, who are being shunned? Excuses are being made as to why they can't be brought back or why they're not being brought back right now. It is horrific. It is horrific. So anyone listening with authority in the government who's aware of that situation, we're urging you. This was the third meeting that I had with parents and persons involved in that, so please. But we're going to continue our conversation on Professor Selwyn Ryan. Look out for my Gael television program tomorrow evening, 8 to 9, where I'm going to go into some more. Also, I'm lecturing tomorrow at the Kwame Ture Center, 11 o'clock in the morning, our weekly Nation of Islam meetings. We have a powerful presentation for you tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock, Kwame Ture Center. Stay tuned to the Street 919 FM as I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum.
The views expressed are not necessarily the views of the management of the Street 919 FM.